REST API documentation is needed. And along with that, we will set up the CRUD operation, REST API with CRUD operations with Spring Data JPA and with exception handling. Also, we will see why we use the at controller advice annotation and what is the use of profile. So, need of REST, let's start with that. So, REST stands for representational state transfer. It's an architecture style for designing network application. REST relies on a stateless client server protocol, and in almost all cases, it's going to be HTTP. In earlier, programmers were relying on SOAP to implement the API in web services, but in recent years, REST has become the choice of programmers because of its simplicity and scalability. Also, this is the difference between SOAP and REST. SOAP is a XML-based message protocol, while REST is an architecture-style protocol. We use WSDL for communication between consumer and provider in SOAP. And in REST, we use XML or JSON to send or receive the data. SOAP's APIs are basically invoked. It invokes services by calling RPC methods, while REST simply calls services via URL path. SOAP does not return human readable result, and REST result is readable, which is just plain XML or JSON. And in SOAP, transfer is over HTTP, also uses other protocols such as SMTP, FTP, and in REST, transfer is over HTTP only. Another difference is JavaScript can call SOAP, but it is difficult to implement, while it is easy to call JavaScript in REST APIs. In SOAP, performance is not great as compared to REST, and REST is performance is much better compared to SOAP in REST. In comparison with SOAP. Mansi, you want to add anything?
Okay. So basically, first of all, actually, when I talk about a web service, if I wanted to implement the web service using the Java, then actually I can have the two options available with me. One option is obviously the SOAP web services, right? This is the one option which is there. And the another option actually which was there, that is nothing but the REST API. So basically, SOAP is a XML based thing, right? So for the usage of SOAP also means if I'm having any SOAP web service and if I require to use that web service, if I require to write down the client for it, in that particular situation also, what is the requirement? Is it like I require to use one particular file, that is something called as WSDL file, right? WSDL file, right? Which is required for the communication between the consumer and provider. So in short, unless and until if I'm not getting the info from the WSDL file, I'm not able to write down the client, right? And majorly, SOAP is XML based protocol, or actually basically SOAP is a protocol, to be very honest, which is used for this particular web service communication. And that protocol became so famous that people try to, or people decided to call that web service as a SOAP web service, right? So basically, when I'm using a SOAP, somewhere I require to follow certain rules and regulations, right? That is what you can say a kind of limitation with the SOAP web service. Am I right?
Yes.
Right. In case of REST, basically, first of all, it is an architectural style, right? It's a way by which you can write down the program. And basically, in case of REST API, there is no specific rules which actually comes into the picture. Means if I require to create a REST API, then there is no specific rules which are coming into the picture. And another advantage over here is that it is using the XML and it uses the JSON also. It can return you the data in the plain text format also, right? And whatever calling is going to be there now, that calling is going to be with the URL basis, right? So basically, whatever calls are going to be there, they are mostly URL based calls are there, right? and it is going to be used only with the HTTP protocol, right? And then it is easy to call from JavaScript point of view. That point also she has mentioned. So basically these are the basic differences between the SOAP and REST. And obviously nowadays REST API are most frequently used. Correct, guys?
Yes.
Yes, Mansi.
Right, right. I think so we can proceed now.
So let's see some of the guiding principles of REST. We can now, what is resource? Resource is a key abstraction of information in a resource. REST is a resource. Any information that we can name can be a resource. For example, a REST resource can be a document or an image, a temporal service, a collection of other resources, or a non-virtual object. And resource representations consist basically the data, metadata describing the data, or the hypermedia links that can help the client in transition to the next desired state. And generally REST, all we learned that we hear that REST is a hypertext driven. So what is that? It is one of the fundamental constraint of a REST architecture style, which that is a hypermedia as the engine of application state. It means that in any given moment, client based on hypermedia in representation of a current resource must have all the information he needs to decide where to transit next. I mean, uh, this hypermedia explains that we need to decide, I mean, it change in application state, we need to mention that. And so you want to add anything regarding this?
No, you can continue.
Yeah. So in this slide, we will see why the REST API documentation is needed. So API documentation is a technical content that documents the API. It includes instruction on how to effectively use and integrate the API. It also provides update on the API's lifecycle, such as a new versions or retirement. And once we publish those APIs, API documentation makes sure another party, which is both internally or externally, know what to do with it. So when we are building any application with REST API, it is necessary to write the REST API documentation. So all the parties involved can work on them according to the documentation and get the better understanding of the REST API application. Now we will see what is CRUD with REST API.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, Pranita. Before
Yes.
we proceed, I wanted to discuss one particular concept. There is one particular concept, something called as Richardson maturity model. Anyone
Okay.
aware about this particular model? Or you're listening this particular term for the first time?
Yes, Mansi, listening for first time.
Okay, so basically this particular Richardson maturity model, this is the concept which is associated to REST API, to be very honest. Okay. So actually, we generally say ki in case of REST API, right, I'm not required to what you can say, there is no specific rules and regulations which are there. Correct?
Right.
We say
Yes.
that, right? Means in any normal way, actually I can uh, use the means I can write down the REST API as a developer, right? There is no specific rules and regulations which was like there with the SOAP kind of thing, right? That was what you can say the advantage over here, right? But actually generalize whatever REST API you are mentioning, right? How or what you can say, uh, whatever REST API implementation you have mentioned, it means is it good, bad, or whatever could be the situation. So to measure that particular thing, right, they have provided something called as Richardson maturity model. Right, so it's a model for dividing the REST services. Means actually whatever REST API you have created, I'm just going to find out the maturity level for that particular REST API. So whatever REST API you have created now, how much mature your REST API is there, right? That is somewhere identified with the help of Richardson maturity model. Okay. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? So in short, it's like a judgment for your own self. Ki, okay, whatever REST API you have created, how much matured that REST API is. Okay. And for that, one documentation is provided. That documentation is provided by the Richardson, Leonard Richardson. Isliye it is called as Richardson maturity model. Clear about it, guys? Are you clear with this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now in that Richardson maturity model, they have provided the 4 levels, right? So level 0, level 1, level 2, and level 3. Okay. So whenever you are creating any REST API, right, where you are using single URL, right, and you are using a single verb, right, means single URL means yeah, I'm having a single URL and single verb while declaring the methods. If this kind of situation is there, right, मतलब एक ही URL है और एक ही method डाली गई है, right, and inside that single URL and inside that single method you are trying to manage everything. CRUD का पूरा ऑपरेशन उसी एक ही मेथड के अंदर दिया गया है, and with that one method only, with one URL you are managing everything. Whenever you are writing this kind of code, means guys you are at 0th level. Getting, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Right. So obviously, can you say that this is a good practice or bad practice?
It's a bad practice.
It's a bad practice. Correct, guys? So my REST API should not be at the 0th level. Right. Basically, if your REST API is at 0th level, means actually you are not implementing a REST API, to be very honest. Right. In level 1, I'm using a multiple URLs, right, but single verb. Okay, matlab URLs are multiple, means I'm saying /customer /ID, then /customer, then so I'm having a multiple URLs, right? Matlab URLs as per the operations which I'm performing, I'm having different URLs, but once again one single verb means you can say one single method will be there. Getting, guys?
Yes.
Right, and level 2 means multiple URL based resources and verbs, matlab multiple URLs and multiple methods. Getting? I think so generally we follow the second one. Yes or no? We use the different URLs and we use the different methods. Correct, guys?
Right.
Yes.
Right, so at least your REST API should be at least at that particular level, at least level 2 tak hona chahiye. Right, so I'm having a multiple URLs and I'm having a different verbs which are representing the CRUD operations. Okay, and different methods. So in short, different URLs, and I'm using different HTTP request methods. Correct?
Yes.
Right. And level 3 is the topmost level where what I'm doing, actually I'm having a multiple URLs, I'm having a multiple verbs also, right? And plus I'm supplying some additional information. Means suppose if I'm having a URL at /customers, okay? So /customers, it is going to return me the data in the JSON format. So I will display the data After that, I will add some metadata in response. Means I will display the response objects, right? Plus addition to that, I'm displaying 3 to 4 URLs, right? Those URLs are nothing but that on that data, suppose if I wanted to perform the CRUD operations, right? Then how that operations will be get provided and for that which URL it's supposed to be get used. That information I am attaching. Are you getting guys what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Mansi.
Right? So whenever this kind of metadata I am attaching, means that metadata is nothing but hetos, guys. I think so in the last slide you have seen the term something called as hetos. Yes or no?
Yes.
So implementation of hetos is nothing but I am following the Richardson maturity model ka third level. Getting? Yes or no?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, now how that hetos looks like. I would like to show that particular diagram to you. Just give me a second. So you can see it's a one kind of documentation stuff, huh, guys? Okay, for the 2 minutes, can I share the screen?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mansi.
Are you able to see? I'm receiving a JSON entity, right? I'm receiving the account information, and then one more link specific information is also attached where actually I'm mentioning that which URLs can be get used for deposit, withdraw, transfer, and close. Correct? So whenever you are giving a response like this, means you are implementing the hetos, right? And that is the topmost level of my Richardson maturity model. Understanding?
Yes, Mansi.
Yes.
Okay, so when you get a little bit time afterwards, please go through the concept something called as Richardson maturity model. Actually, if you wanted to generate output like using hetos, right? Hetos ka output chahiye, to actually with the Spring Boot they have provided one dependency also which you require to add, right? And actually you can have the actual implementation like this. Okay, got it?
Mansi, one question. Then what about
Yes.
security for the particular API and all that thing for the particular rates call and all? That will
Then in
not
that
include in that
case, then in
Richardson.
no, it doesn't get included because security is the another aspect, no?
Mhm.
For
Okay.
that, they have provided the Spring security part, which you have to combine with the REST API implementation. Spring security
JW.
is a separate part, na? It's a separate, what you can say, project, which
Yes.
is the part of my umbrella.
Mhm.
So you can combine it with the REST API, but security alag hota hai.
Oh, okay.
Got it?
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So this is also one point. Many times in interviews, this question get asked that what is Richardson maturity model? What is the use of it? What are the levels? Right? That kind of stuff is asked. So I will suggest you to please go through this. I have just given you the overview of Richardson maturity model. Right? So next thing that please go into the details of that particular thing. Getting? I will share some of the blocks, right, which is having a more information about the Richardson maturity model in our chat box, right? So please kindly go through with that. Okay.
Okay, Mansi.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Yes. So basically, if I want to have a quick revision, when I'm at the 0th level, right, 0 level of maturity means it is not making use of any URIs, it is not using any HTTP methods, and it is not using any HETOS capabilities. Level 1 matlab kya? It is going to use the URIs, but it is not going to use the different HTTP methods. One single HTTP method will manage everything. Level 2 matlab kya? It is going to use the URIs and it is going to use the HTTP methods. Correct? But it will not use the HETOS. Right? And level 3 matlab kya? I'm using URIs, I'm using all the HTTP methods as per my requirement, and I'm using HETOS. Correct? Understood, guys?
Yes, Umesh.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So generally we follow the level 2. Am I right? Yes, no.
Right.
Yes, Mansi.
Right. Okay. Pranita, over to you.
Yes. So yesterday we also created some CRUD operations which were without the database. Today we will be seeing the developing the REST API with Spring Data JPA and along with exception handling. So let's go to the STS. So we created this DAO class yesterday, which were extending JPA repository. Today I'm using H2 database. I have written all the properties here for connecting to the database of H2 database, username, password, all that. And I have also written one customized query here using @query annotation for finding the course related with department. And in course service implementation yesterday, we were using the list which was manually created, and today we will be replacing that with the database data. So this is the reference for the course DAO, and for getting all the courses, we are calling the find all method. For getting the particular course by ID, we are using the method find by ID, which is provided by the JPA repository. For add course, we are using the save method. For updating the course, also we are using the save. For deleting course by ID, we are using the delete by ID provide which from JPA repository, and this method I have written written in a course DAO by custom query. So let's test these APIs first. So this is getting all the courses right now. Now let's try to call another URL. Get course for by ID. So now it is returning the second course with ID 2. The custom query for department, let's also check that. It will return the list of all the courses of that department. So this query is returning the courses of department IT. So in this way, we can connect to the JPA database and use all the implemented methods of JPA repository for performing CRUD operations. You want to add anything on this, Mansi? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Pranita.
Okay.
Could hear
Man,
you.
yes. Mansi, do you want to add anything? Okay, anyone has any question regarding this basic CRUD operation with JPA?
Nothing from
Hello.
my side.
In the code, you have extended that repository with JPA.
Yeah.
So we can use the CRUD repository also here. So what is the difference between two means JPA repository and CRUD?
Is the difference between that is the CRUD repository is the implementation of JPA repository itself. So we can, it is a parent implementation of a CRUD repository, if I'm not wrong.
Any other means means any other differences? Why we are
No, actually, I'm also not aware. Anyone, if wants to answer this? Does anyone know the difference between JPA repository and CRUD repository?
Pranita, as you told, like it's a hierarchy difference. Like
Yeah.
for CRUD, it's a top of implementation of the JPA repository itself. So as per my
Yes.
opinion, as per my understanding, the difference is for JPA repository, it could be involved in the Java batch processing as well. But for CRUD, it is only mostly restricted to the operation of the CRUD, like delete, update, insert, that's it. This is what the difference I know, the only one difference regarding the batch.
Okay. Mansi, are you there? Ashwini, are you clear or you want to discuss this more?
got that differences. It's a hierarchy purpose, and that Apnil told that batch processing. Apart
Yes.
from that, okay. Go forward. We'll connect with once he will come, then maybe she has some input on this.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Sorry, I was on mute, guys. So in this implementation, we have not added any exception handling mechanism. So suppose we try to send the data with empty values. Let's see what we get as a response. I'm trying to add the another data, but I'm not adding a name, anything, mentioning a name. So it is a bad request. So we are getting the error as a bad request because we have not implemented any exception handling mechanism here. So what we can do is create the custom exception for this when the any data, any input field is null. So I have already created that exception, which is empty input exception, which extends runtime exception. So it is an unchecked exception in this case. And we can throw this exception if the data is any input value is null. So we will check this condition and throw our exception from here. Here I'll be passing the error code. Message alongside that. Now let's see what happens if I run this. So
I think you need to handle that on controller level as well, right?
yes, on controller level as well. I'm just trying to get the error for this. What happens if we don't handle that in controller?
Okay.
Pranita, scroll right.
Yes.
कंसोल पे ना
Uh,
राइट स्क्रॉल करो, आपको वो लास्ट में एरर दिख जाएगा.
Okay.
Actually, your request body is not proper. Can you check it the Postman?
Yeah, that's why I'm doing this purposely so that
Okay,
we
she's
can
doing
get
it
that.
purposely.
Okay.
Yeah.
She wanted to show the error, Surabhi.
Yeah.
So, Mansi, for that, you have not to send the name.
Yeah, I have not added anything here. I guess I have to relaunch the application. Let's see after that. Okay. Actually, it should show error here in column.
You have to remove name attribute from the Postman and then hit it.
See, error is there.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
Okay, yeah, it's showing. This one, right, Mansi?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is showing error because we have not handled this in a controller, our controller. We should handle this in our controller either by try catch block or using @controller advice. So
when we are using @controller advice means we are using a concept something called as centralized exception handling mechanism, guys.
yes.
Okay. So
Yeah.
please remember this keyword, because many times in interview they can ask you ki what is centralized exception handling mechanism and how to apply it. Many times you must have used the controller advice and you know how to do that, but you are not familiar with that terminology, so you are not able to give the answer.
So for this empty input exception, we have to add this in our controller advice class. So this is the class I have created with add controller advice annotation. So whenever there is exception occurred in any method, it will check in all the controller advice classes and map those exception to this particular method which we have mapped using at exception handler. So here I have written a method calling using handle empty input, which says that input field is empty and it is a bad request. In response entity, I'm passing it as a bad request. So okay. So here we are getting input field is empty and it is showing it as a bad request. You want to add anything on this, Mansi, regarding this particular exception?
Yes. One more point I wanted to add it over here. Guys, actually using the centralized exception handling mechanism, we have created the separate class, right? Which is specifically annotated with @controller advice. So basically this @controller advice is a specific annotation, right? Which is generated for the exception handling related mechanism. Okay, you will not see that annotation is used anywhere else. It is specifically used with the centralized exception handling mechanism. And Pranita, can you just please go to the code?
Yeah.
Especially the controller
Yes.
advice specific class.
Yes.
Now in this class, you can add the multiple methods. For the timing, guys, Pranita had add only single method over here.
Okay, well, let's just try to add another method.
So actually
yes,
I can have another multiple methods. And
yes.
Another question they may ask you to just trick you out. Ki suppose in centralized exception handling mechanism for the time being, Pranita has handled the user defined exception, means specific exception, right?
Right.
So using this mechanism, can I handle a null pointer exception? Or this mechanism is only specific for the user defined exceptions? What do you think, guys?
We can handle predefined exception also, I think.
Yes, we can handle the predefined exceptions also, right? So actually I can have a multiple methods, which is the combination, which is having a various combinations of user defined exceptions and some predefined exceptions. And generally developer write one more method, right? Which is handling a parent class, that is exception class, exception.class. So one method which is generalized, and then you can have a specialized methods. In this way, generally it is written or it is arranged. Guys, are you getting what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Mansi. Just could you please explain how it's controller device works internally? Means how it's recognized our controller classes or
No. It's a specialized annotation which they have created. Like you are having the REST controller. जैसे REST controller है, which is used for the REST controller, right? Or whenever I'm writing a REST API, right?
Yeah.
In the same way, I'm having a controller advice. It's a specialized annotation which they have created.
Yeah. So we are annotated a separate class for that.
Yes.
But how that class is recognized to our controller class where it's got occurred is error got occurred?
No. Because using @controller advice, it is not associated to specific controller class. When I say it's a centralized exception handling mechanism, means it is applicable to all the controllers which you are writing in your application.
That's
So
what
suppose
okay.
tomorrow if you are having 4 classes which are annotated with the REST controller, means in short you are having 4 controllers which are representing REST APIs for you. So for all the 4 controllers, that one controller advice is over there. Are you getting what you are trying to say?
Yes, once I got it. Means you want to say that whatever class we are using at the REST controller, it got applied for that. I means
Yes,
centralization.
yes. So it's a centralized mechanism, na guys. When I use a word that it's a centralized exception handling mechanism, right? Means it is going to consider all the exceptions which are generated by your REST controllers. So you can have one REST controller, or you can have a multiple REST controller implementations, na?
Yeah, got it.
So all the implementations will come under that one, or all the exceptions can be get managed by only that one class.
Yes.
So suppose if you are getting 4 user defined exceptions and 3 situations where the what you can say predefined exceptions are there, then in your centralized exception handling mechanism specific class, you can write down 8 methods.
Yes.
Got it,
Got
Ashwin?
it.
Got it,
Yeah.
Ashwini Kumar?
Yes, got it.
Ha. Any other questions, guys?
Related that it's just I got to know that it's for controller class. Means is there any possibility for the service classes or repository classes for that to centralize the exception?
Okay, but actually with exception handling, if I'm not mistaken, the chaining kind of thing is going to be there, no? मतलब what I'm trying to say कि अगर service में भी if there is means what you are trying to say. So see, suppose if I'm not reaching to the controller and due to some reason if my repository and my service instance is not getting created, then मुझे अलग तरीके के error आएंगे ना, and वो error messages I should not show it to the user if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Am I right, guys? Please correct me.
Yes, ma'am.
Generally, when I'm going to handle the exception and if I want any kind of status code should be get generated, any kind of message should be get generated, means the situation is that I'm applying some REST API and for that I'm trying to get the data and due to some reason that data is not available. Like 404 या फिर 500 जैसा situation आएगा, correct?
Yes.
सर्विस एंड रिपोजिटरी लेवल पे जो मुझे एक्सेप्शंस आते हैं वो मेजरली व्हाट यू कैन से रिलेटेड टू बीन क्रिएशंस रहते हैं कि रिपोजिटरी इंस्टेंस कैन नॉट बी गेट क्रिएटेड और मे बी सर्विस वाज नॉट रिसीविंग रिपोजिटरी और मे बी डेटा सोर्स इज नॉट गेटिंग क्रिएटेड, राइट? सो जनरली दैट एरर्स वी विल नॉट हैंडल इन दिस पर्टिकुलर वे. करेक्ट गाइस? कविता, Janhavi, what do you think?
Yeah.
Yes, Mansi.
Yes, Mansi, it's
Yes,
a
yes,
generalized
okay.
exception, what we can test it from the log itself, like a console.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And suppose still if you wanted to manage it, then still try catch वाला option तो है ही ना available on that level only. मतलब if you wanted to handle the exceptions on specifically on service level या फिर repository level you wanted to handle it, right? Then try catch वाला option is always there over there.
Yes, got it, Mansi.
Mansi, should we try handling the predefined exception as well in controller
Yes.
advice?
Please try to handle it and just add one more method which is going to handle the catch-all kind of situation. मतलब which is going to handle the exception.class.
Okay.
Ha.
So let's first try to create the, let's say, suppose we are trying to fetch the course by ID, which is not present in our database. So this is giving us the error. So which error is that? So it is giving us a no such element exception. So let's just try to handle this.
Evelyn's house. Hi, Evelyn. Do you need a hairbrush? Okay. Wow, it looks so pretty. Oh, looks like a hairbrush for school. Oh, that's. Show me your nail. Oh. You have to take care of your nail. Okay.
So here we will write the message specific to the error.
Girls, you look pretty today.
Now we don't need to throw this exception. So now we are trying to fetch the record by ID, which is not in database. It is giving us the message and also the bad request as a status. Now we will try to catch the catch-all exceptions. Okay, Mansi.
Yes, now means try to execute it.
So with what scenario for that exception?
Which one catch all?
Yeah.
Or catch all. Or just do one thing, just in any method, just randomly generate that exception.
Okay, let
Specifically.
me just comment out this one. So by default, it will be catch.
Yes. Because actually here there is no such specific situation.
Yeah.
उतना कोड नहीं लिखा है हमने.
हाँ. So yesterday also there was a question regarding response entity. So we are doing that today. We are sending the HTTP status as a response.
Yes, I think so. Someone asked yesterday.
Yes. Yeah. So now it is cached in a exception parent class in catch all section, and now it is showing the error occurred as a response. Is that okay, Mansi?
Yeah.
Okay.
And another option is over here that generally whatever error message is getting generated now, actually on a very large scale for the error message generation also there is one, what you can say, a class get generated. Like what you say, the message, timestamp or date and status code. ऐसे कुछ तो fields बना के we can have a separate class. Means as you have mentioned ना कि input field is empty. Instead of
Yes.
that you can use that object.
Yes.
That is also most commonly used technique is that.
Yes.
Guys, are you getting what I'm trying to say?
Is here.
Like constant file, Mansi, you are saying?
No, no, no.
Whereas
We create an object. We create a class.
Okay.
एक error message करके या फिर ऐसा कुछ तो करके you can create a class and that class object is storing the error info.
Okay.
Instead of that return type string.
Like a enum,
Huh.
right?
Object.
Okay.
Means that is generally used in a project. Generally in project they use it because they want the error message should be get displayed in a particular format. Na? मतलब description and at what time it is getting generated. Suppose if you want to display it, then I have to follow this technique, right? So that is also one way, guys. Check it out afterwards.
Actually, one question here. So this sequence of this handler, okay, it should be matters.
No,
No.
if it is specialized, then it will go for the specialized exceptions. No.
My question is like in generally in a try catch block, right? We keep that constant, right? Like super should be the bottom, right? Like that I'm asking here.
No.
Okay.
Because these are the methods, na? These are specific methods. When XYZ type of exception is going to be there, then my control will go to that particular method.
Okay, okay. No, if it is not
Okay.
finding, then at the last it is going to parent exception, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. If he is not able to find the specialized method, then he will go to the method which is acting as a catch-all. That is the method which we have mentioned, that is handle exception.
Okay, okay.
Last wala.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, so by using this class, we are actually trying to save the line of code instead of using try catch block in each method. We are just using the global exception handling mechanism using this. Mansi, can I go forward?
Yeah, you can go forward.
Also, yesterday there was a question regarding accessing the application.property in a our code. So I have created the get app name for that. Let's also see that. So here is the property application name in Spring, which has value as a Spring Boot. We will see how we can access that in our code. Read this value in our code. So we can, here I am using the @value annotation and the property name and binding this into this reference and calling the get app name. So let's call this API. So in this way, we are able to read the application.properties for value property. Is that okay, Mansi?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next is user profiles in Spring Boot. So Spring Boot allows us to have the multiple profiles for development, testing, and production environment, etc. We can then activate different profiles in different environments to bootstrap only the bins we need. So this and the Spring Boot, the syntax to write those properties file is application dash the profile name dot properties. So So in our code, I have created the multiple application.properties here. This one is by default. This is the dev one, and this is the test one. So in dev, I have written all the configurations and marked this as active in my application.properties using spring.profiles.active. So when I launch the application, it shows me here that the following one profile active is dev, and it will use all the properties from dev file. And also, there are multiple ways to define active profile in Spring Boot, which are including command line arguments, Maven settings, JVM system parameters, environment variables, using spring.profile.active property, just like we saw it now, and Spring application methods. These are some of the methods regarding defining the active profile in Spring Boot. Mansi, anything to add on this? Mansi?
No, nothing to add. Actually, I was talking on mute.
Okay, okay.
Okay. And generally, actually, for the creation of the means, suppose if you are using a YML, right, then generally the YML file is used to create for creation of the profiles. Correct, guys? I think so. That point we have discussed yesterday.
Yes.
Right, but actually, if you are comfortable with application.properties, then in this way you can create the multiple application.properties files, right? The way it is mentioned in the current project. So this is also one way. Yeah, where you can have a YAML file. Clear, guys? Yes, yes. Yes, Pranita.
Okay. Yeah, Mansi, we are done with today's topics. So if you
Yes,
want
yes.
to end, yes.
Yes. So guys, the main purpose of our today's session is that you should able to see a one particular big project, right? Generally the kind of code we use in our project, that is the creation of the multiple layers, that is the repository layer, service layer, controller layer, right? Then the usage of REST APIs with JPA, right? With centralized exception handling mechanism. This is the generally basic expectation that at least this much knowledge you should have. Correct, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So at least you consider this as a baseline. Okay, this much you should know. In addition to that, if you know the Spring Security, how to integrate it with this, right? And if you know the any other option, that is well and good. But at least to have a creation of this kind of code, and what are the important things associated to that? What are the important annotations which are associated to that? What is the use of these annotations? What is the purpose of this particular code? All these things should be very clear to you guys. Okay, sometimes client may ask you to create the API also. REST controller भी लिखने को बोल सकते हैं, right? Please have a check on the Richardson maturity model concept also, right? So at least this much you should be pretty clear. Okay. So consider this particular entire discussion as a base part, right? You are supposed to revise this again and you are supposed to explore it again. Okay.
Yes. Mansi, there was a question I asked earlier. Difference between CRUD repository and JPA repository, the specific differences between them.
Okay, guys, anyone from you?
We discussed this, Mansi, before, but if you can elaborate on this again.
I think Ashwini, it has been discussed. So you were there when it was discussed, or what was the situation?
That we got to know that only one difference is, as I think one of the guys shared, the JP just we can use for the batch processing, but the CRUD repository is just specific for CRUD operation. And hierarchy purpose, there is one difference. Apart from
Yeah,
that,
yeah, that is the only difference, because actually CRUD repository is a parent
yeah,
of JPA. So basically with the CRUD repository, only CRUD operation specific methods are included, right? And in JPA, the pagination and additional facilities also included.
pagination is also. Okay, I will look on that.
What I will do on this purpose, if I find any block where little bit more detailed info is provided, I will share it with you. But basically, this is the base difference, not much than that. So CRUD repository is specifically dedicated for the CRUD operation purpose. And in JPA repository, some additional features are also added.
I got it. I will look into that also.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Mansi, one question.
Yes, Omkar.
Which one is better, YML file or XML file or application.property file? Actually, I know the YML file, but I am unable to answer properly. Can you please elaborate?
No, basically that answer is also not correct, because if I'm going to use the Spring Boot, then I think so with the Spring Boot, it is no XML file.
Yes. But if you compare with YML and application property, if you are going with the
Basically, they
Docker and
both are
all,
same. There is no basic difference in that, Omkar. क्योंकि अगर ऐसा difference होता, then there must be some preference to the properties file या फिर YML file. If I am having a properties file and YML file, both are going to be get considered, no?
No. If you go with the Docker concept, then only YML file is supported. That only we need to
Yeah,
convert XML.
Yeah, but that is from containerization point of view if I'm using that concept.
But
Once again, the
normal,
answer will, once again, please try to Omkar, answer will change according to in what environment you are using the project, no? If you are using a Docker, then okay, YAML is good. Okay, but if I'm not using any such kind of tools, then in that scenario, properties file and YAML file are same.
yeah. But okay.
See, if you stick to, see, for answering this particular question, you are asking it or considering it from which point of view? If I stick to Spring Boot, then from Spring Boot as a framework point of view, उसके लिए दोनों same है.
Okay.
उसको properties भी उतना ही है and YAML भी उतना ही है. हाँ. In the properties file and in YAML file, in both the files, if the same property is what you can say used with different values, then he will give the preference to application.properties. मतलब server का port is mentioned in application.properties also, and server का another port is defined in YAML file. Then preference will be to application.properties from Spring Boot point of view.
Okay.
But in both the files, if different properties are set, then he is going to consider both the things. So from boot point of view or Spring Boot point of view, both are same. If you go to some other concept, then the answer may change, na? That which environment you are using, for which purpose, which configuration you are providing. So while giving the answer, just make sure that interviewer is asking exactly from which context.
No. Okay.
Is he asking only from Spring Boot context, or he is going to say consider some containerization concept, and from considering some specific container he is asking it? That you have to check out, and then according to that give the answer.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah. But size wise, which one is preferred? If you go with a better size or application size, so maybe the YML.
YML, I can say, because in one YML file means in specifically that is associated to profiling part only. Key multiple profiles can be get configured in one single YAML file, and in case of application.properties, I have to create the multiple files. So in that context, only the difference will be there.
Okay.
YAML is better.
Got
But
it.
once again, my answer or my logic is it depends on developer's point of view. With what format he is much more comfortable, because YAML का format अलग है, application.properties का format थोड़ा अलग है. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else, guys?
If suppose we want the we want to use that properties in our code, then we can get from the application.properties only string only, right? But in other in YML we can get like integer also or string also, like that. That is one difference we can get whenever we want to fetch that values into our code. That is also one difference.
That is also one difference. Yes. So once again, to be very honest, as a developer, as per your requirement, you have to make the decision.
Yes.
Anything else, guys? Okay. So I'm taking the answer as no. So guys, that's it for today. Pranita, thank you very much for presenting this particular